Genevieve Frank, Administrative Director and City Clerk, St. Louis County.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Thank you.
What exactly, you got a very long title there. I know you work for the county council. What do you exactly do there?
It is a long title, and obviously St. Louis County is such a big county with almost 1 million people in it that in my office, we don't do some of the tasks that people traditionally think about as being done by a county clerk. For instance, we don't do voter registration. We have an entirely different Board of Elections that handles that kind of thing. We don't do birth certificates, death certificates in our office, all that kind of thing. Our main responsibility actually is to prepare the agenda for the St. Louis County Council meetings and then also produce the minutes of their meetings, which we call the journal. And that's a pretty big job because the council meets actually 48 times a year, which is, a lot of people are actually really surprised to hear that because they're used to their local municipalities who maybe meet once or twice a month, but the county council meets 48 times a year, so that's a lot of agendas to produce and a lot of minutes to produce every week.
Yeah, you also have to, I think, don't you handle the sunshine requests? If somebody asks for something or a particular ordinance or whatever?
We do handle a lot of sunshine law requests. We are the official repository in our department for quite a few of St. Louis County's official records, not all of them, again, because St. Louis County is so big and the kind of records it has to maintain are so voluminous and so varied that one department couldn't possibly be responsible for all of them, but we are responsible for all the legislation passed. We're the repository for all of those records, the ordinances that are passed, the bills, all that kind of thing, even honorary resolutions and those kind of things, and some other St. Louis County documents as well, some things that by state law required to be filed either with a county commission or with a county clerk, and then a lot of the contracts that the county enters into, we take care of maintaining those records too. So it's a big job. It's a lot of paper, although we try as much as possible in this day and age to be as paperless as we possibly can. So those are the tasks that we do, but I sort of consider our big responsibility to be the information conduit from the legislative body of St. Louis County to the citizens. So that's really our main responsibility, is that we want to ensure that the legislative body in St. Louis County is operating in a transparent manner at all times, that information is accurately and quickly provided to any member of the public whenever they request it.
So it's kind of a twofold job, if I understand what you're saying. You know, on one side, you work with constituents. On the other side, you're actually I guess, kind of analogous to the secretary for the council to get their agendas together and make sure everything flows, make sure nothing gets missed, nothing dropped, and whatever.
Exactly. And my main responsibility is I'm, managing both of those sets of tasks. So we're, on the one hand, we're managing, the staff that are the points of contact for citizens in St. Louis County, for the constituents, and that includes obviously individuals, but also people who operate businesses in St. Louis County. So that's sort of that day-to-day operation, is fielding calls from those people, helping those people get information that they need about all kinds of different county departments and programs and activities, and also obviously answer their questions about all the legislative activity that's going on. And then, yes, the other side is a lot less interesting, but no less important, in that it's really maintaining those records and making sure that they're maintained in a way that they are readily accessible whenever anybody needs them.
A lot of people don't realize that a lot of records that, like our city keeps, and I know St. Louis County, the same thing, they're actually, the Secretary of State regulates how long you have to keep those records, and you have to file them, have them on file available, and some are forever. That's
true. So, a big part of what we do is maintaining those records, and we actually, we have a lot of records, obviously, that are sent to storage, although the way that is managed, they're also still very accessible and readily available if someone needs access to them. But we have a lot of records, and a lot of very old records that we actually keep on site in our department. So legislation, ordinances, going way back. So we have a lot of old paper in our department, and we're very careful with it.
What's the oldest ordinance that you ever mess with that you can remember, or do you remember, just to kind of give the viewers?
I've actually had some requests for some that are from like the early 20th century, so that's
Oh
the
my
oldest
gosh.
I've dealt with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that the paper's still there.
We have a lot of delicate paper, but we have a vault that is somewhat climate controlled, and so we do what we can to protect those old papers.
Can you kind of take me through the process of, let's say I ask for a stop sign to be put in a particular place, and it goes through the county department, and the department approves it, and it goes to the council. What happens then? Take me through what happens when it goes to the council.
Well, the way it gets to the council is after the Highways and Traffic Department has looked at it, and they have the department there sends on a request basically to the county executive, recommending to the county executive that the county executive ask the county council to pass the appropriate legislation to make that happen. So the first time you'll see that on the council's agenda is it will be in the form of a letter from the county executive asking the council to amend the ordinances to include, that stop sign at whatever intersection it is. And that'll usually have attached to it the letter from Highways and Traffic that explains why that's a good idea to have that stop sign there. So then the letter is directed to the council member who represents that district, and then the council member from that district can decide whether or not to request legislation, meaning that they ask the county councilor to draft a bill that will allow for a stop sign at that intersection. And then once that bill has been prepared and drafted by the county councilor, they send it to our office, and then the council member will introduce it. And then the next week it will go on the perfection order of business, and it will it'll be called up again, and the council member can move to perfect that bill, and then it will go on to the final passage order of business, and then it will get finally passed, and then if it's finally passed by the council, which it takes council members, there's 7 council members, so it takes a simple majority to pass an ordinance like that. So if it passes, then it goes up to the county executive for the county executive signature, and once the county executive signs off on it, then it goes into effect 15 days later, and then Highways and Traffic can go put the stop sign up.
So I got my stop sign then, right? So-
Of course, during that legislative process, that's a pretty simple bill and simple request usually, but during that legislative process, for any number of bills, any number of things can happen. People can hold bills for a certain amount of time. So generally it takes 3 weeks to pass an ordinance, but it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes the council wants to study an issue more. Sometimes they want to have committee meetings about an issue or public hearings about an issue, so it may take longer than that 3-week period. But usually it's 3 weeks from the time a bill is introduced until the time that the council passes it.
What happens if something along the way happens and they don't want to pass it? Let's assume they introduced it and maybe, I don't know, perfected or not, but what happens with it then?
Well,
It sits on the agenda?
They
for
have
a while?
several options. If the council doesn't, basically what will happen is it'll stay on the agenda until the council takes some action. It'll stay whatever point it was at. So usually what will happen is if the council doesn't want to go forward with a piece of legislation that it has already introduced, then someone, usually the sponsor, will make a motion to drop it from the order of business. But it's also possible, again, to hold it on the order of business while the issue gets studied or details get worked out or that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. How many bills or ordinances does the county council pass in a year?
Somewhere around 300 plus. Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, so it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So
And
for this year, we just passed over the 100 mark, but usually the second half of the year has more bills. You'll see more because they have to pass the budget bills in the last month of the year and that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, we've talked about bills and ordinances, but there are other things that the county council does, resolutions and
The council
things
does.
like that,
They do what we call prepared orders, which is usually, sort of ordinance or statute sort of mandated administrative type of thing that they have to pass. And then they do a lot of honorary resolutions. The council members love to do honorary resolutions, and that's for all kinds of things. It may be somebody who's attained Eagle Scout status, somebody who's celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. I'm trying to think of some recent ones. We just had We just passed one this week because it was the anniversary, the 50th anniversary, I believe, of Florescen's city charter being adopted. So they'll do for any number of things. In fact, Councilman O'Mara did one last week for the soccer game that's going to be played here in St. Louis tonight. So they could be any number of things. Usually, though, it's honoring constituents, citizens that have done something notable in the community.
Yeah, well, that's worthwhile. And
It is worthwhile,
It's,
and
makes it interesting.
But the council likes to let citizens in the community who are doing good things for the community. They like to recognize those things and make sure people know they're appreciated for their efforts.
Let's change directions here
Sure.
for a second, and I'm going to ask you a question I ask everybody that sits here.
Okay.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Rosati Kane High School, which is a small Catholic girls' high school in the Central West End in St. Louis City.
And you went. What is your educational background?
I'm a lawyer, so my undergraduate degree is from Washington University, and my law degree is also from Washington University.
Very good. And how long have you been the county administrative director?
I was sworn in with some of the new council members, or actually started with some of the new council members when they were sworn in on January 1st, 2007.
Oh, okay. So got quite a
So
bit,
I've been
quite
there
a
for a
bit of
while.
experience on it.
Yeah, I've been there for a while. I enjoy it. I love working with the council members, love working with the people in the office, love working with all the other county departments. A lot of times people that work in government get a bad rap, and citizens, I think, don't always understand how dedicated most county and most government employees are. And people really, I think, in the county really strive to do a really good job for citizens. They take a lot of pride in their work, and they really take serving the public very seriously.
Yeah, it is a difficult job a lot of times, but it is very fulfilling, and it is a very interesting.
It is. I think
Very working.
the best days are when I think a constituent calls with some kind of problem or question or an issue, and we're able to resolve it to their satisfaction or give them information that they really needed. I think that's really the best stuff that we do every day. I mean, a lot of stuff we have to do, and it's not very interesting, but that's the part that is really fulfilling. And also when we know that the council is passing legislation that really is keeping things going in the county, keeping the roads going, keeping, all those kind of things that people take for granted every day. When, all that stays on track, that's really a great accomplishment. And, hopefully, the less you hear about that kind of thing, the better, because it means everything's working the way that it should.
And as large as the county is, the very few phone calls you get, it probably is, is a testament to how good people
but
do
it's
work.
also, I also actually love when we have an issue that's somewhat controversial too, and we get a lot of people calling, because that's really the way that democracy, and representative democracy is supposed to work. We have 7 council members; each of them are representing over 140,000 people. So, on some things that's a lot of diverse opinion, and that's the way it's supposed to work. Is that they need to hear from people what their views are on things that come before them, and that helps them decide what they think is best for the county. So I actually think that's a lot of fun when something is not divisive or controversial, but when there's a good spirited debate about what's best for the county.
We have both sides, and they
Exactly.
try to get their point across, and you don't know where it's going to go, right?
And that's a part
That's
of,
good.
actually, a part of my job I love too, is that every week the council sets aside part of their meeting for members of the public to come in and offer public comment. And it doesn't have to be related to anything that's on the agenda or anything that the council is taking up that week. It can be about actually what's ever important to that particular constituent. And so, I think that's a great thing that, every week we're open and available, and the council members are there to hear what a constituent might have to say to them.
Sounds great. Well, if anybody has any questions of you, how can they contact you?
They can contact our office. My direct line is 314-615-5440. Don't mind giving that out because it's a matter of public record. And then also people can always email us at gfrank stlouisco.com. That's our email. And people can also, whenever they need anything from the county, we have a great staff that staffs our main information number, which is 615-5000. And those people are experts on, asking the right questions to find out what a caller needs and getting them to whoever it is that they need to talk to and can offer them assistance.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Jen. I appreciate
Thanks,
the
it was
interview.
great. I loved it.
Thank you. My name's Norm McCourt, the host of City Limits, the show that provides you with information about the people, places, and events that shape the character of our community. Joining me tonight is Diane Galata, Assistant Superintendent for Communications, Hazelwood School District. Welcome, Diana.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's talk about, a school district has a communications department. And I'm sure you get involved in a lot of things. So what's some of the things that a communications director does?
Well, basically for the school district, I am in charge of the long-range plan in terms of communicating with the public. And things have changed over the years. So that would include anything from our television station to our website, to the media, and now social media. And so I get very involved in the different things that are happening in terms of good news stories, and really work to push them out to the community so they can see all the good things that are happening in Hazelwood. So we have a small video department where we make several videos and put them out on the website and then on Charter. We have a website that we use all the time and has been very effective for us. Facebook. We're just now getting very involved in Twitter, and so that's been fun as well. And then the media piece. So I spend a lot of my time dealing with the media, sharing information with the media, either the good news stories or trying to clarify on an event or something that has happened. So it's a great job. We've really tried over the years to become more transparent, become more engaging with the public, invite the public in, and have them become much more involved in the decisions that we're making. And I think there's been several great things that have come out of that. One of the things that I'm proud of from a communication standpoint is that we have developed a district-wide e-blast, which goes to 15,000 people, and then now each school has an e-blast with the same branding that our district has, and so that's been, for me, a pretty big accomplishment just in terms of creating one more avenue to communicate with our parents.
Yeah, I remember when I went to school and when my kids went to school, it was always a challenge to find out if school was going to be open or not if it snowed. Nowadays, I mean, you get it on your on your cell phones and email and whatever. Explain to the residents what an e-blast is, because some residents may not know what that is.
Sure. It's simply it's an email that goes to a large group of people, and it's when you look at the actual email when you receive it, it looks like it's designed like a paper newsletter that you would get at home, but it's free. You go on our website, you sign up for it, and then once or twice a week we would send that out as an e-blast, and we just call it a blast because it goes to, you push send one time and it goes to a lot of people. And so what's neat is on Hazelwood's, a patron could go on there and check that they just want to get district information, but then they can also check on our website which schools they want to get information from. So say you have a student right around the corner here at Hazelwood Central Middle, you could sign up for that e-blast, Jamestown Elementary's e-blast, and the district e-blast, and really it's focused on the information that you want. And the other piece of it is it creates an avenue for two-way communication. If you send a newsletter home in the mail, which that's an important thing to do, there's not an immediate way for someone to respond back to you. But when you send an e-blast, if there's a question or a comment, the patron can send that in right away and get a response. And so it really creates two-way communication instead of one-way communication. And all of our research has shown that the two-way is much more effective than the one-way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, whenever a school is closed or so on, does it come on that also? Do you send it via
Yes.
the e-blast?
Yes.
I know the television stations now.
Right.
have
We have a lot of different ways now for closing school, and one big piece of that's our auto dialer, which it's kind of a robot call that would go to all of the phone numbers in the district. we can post it on Twitter immediately, and then we get a lot of retweets from that, post it on Facebook, and then we do an e-blast. So with the way technology is today, there are so many ways that we can immediately communicate, and it's very helpful for us as a district, because that's, the kids usually are hoping, okay, we're hoping for that day to be closed, and the parents not so much. So it's funny, because I think that many times now the students tell the parents that school is closed because they're the ones on the social media checking it every few minutes.
I was going to say, I'll bet you it's really interesting if you look at the retweets that come back from the kids.
Absolutely,
Hooray, whatever,
absolutely, and that's the power of social media, is how you can build that. So it's been effective for us.
Social media now, let's talk a little bit about that. Years ago they didn't have social media, and then finally you got to the email. Now you're into social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, I don't know.
Instagram.
There's a whole bunch of them. But how has that helped in what you do in communicating? I guess, because everybody isn't on the same one, so do you have to feed each one of these, or?
Well, there are programs that you can use to where you can post it one place and it goes multiple times, and we're actually, Hazelwood is actually looking at that for the future in terms of a mobile app where at the district level we would post one thing one place and it would go multiple places. But to me, it's free and instantaneous. So it doesn't cost anything to set up a Twitter account. It doesn't cost anything to set up a Facebook account. So to me, it's fast, it's free, other than the personnel time, and it's easy. To close school on Twitter literally takes us 4 seconds. You just put it on there and it's out. So it's easy that way. And as far as the cost savings, that's significant, because if you think about the printing cost and the time it takes to get a newsletter out, there's a lot of money being saved there, and that's great for school districts and great for taxpayers, obviously.
Where do you see communications going in school districts in the future?
Well, one of the things I've seen is it's become much more strategic. When I started in school PR 20-something years ago, it was really more about getting pictures in the newspaper. I mean, that was the job. Go out and take a picture of these students and get it in the newspaper. And that's really what the job was limited to. But really what it's become is more of an advisor position in terms of becoming involved before a district makes a major decision, so that the communications person is at the table saying, okay, if we make this decision, let's talk about the implications of this decision to your patrons. How will this be taken by the patrons? How will it make them feel? And really, it's become a position to where you walk through those decisions with the leaders and help them understand how a decision may impact patron support of the school district, and how you may need to alter that decision or communicate it a little bit more strategically so that patrons feel more comfortable about it. In every district that I work for, there have been decisions that have been made that are unpopular, and you can't always get around that, but there are ways that you can engage the community and that you can make decisions so that people aren't feeling like they're finding out about it so much after the fact, or that they had no knowledge about it whatsoever. I mean, there's a way to kind of communicate with people regularly so they know that things are happening. And that's what we did with I think we did that with our Hazelwood First process, was really involving everybody in that process. So when we came out and said, okay, we want to pass a bond issue, it wasn't a surprise to anybody. So that's what I've seen. Now, as far as the future, I will be interesting to watch the Facebook and Twitter and how that is going to impact education. Because one of the things I'm seeing that's very exciting with Twitter is there's a professional development component of that, where teachers across the country are talking back and forth on Twitter and giving each other teaching tips and so on. And I think that's very powerful. And so I'm excited to see where that's going in the future.
Yeah, it's very much evolving, and probably what's going to be 5 years from now, we don't know right now. We don't
Absolutely.
really know.
And that's kind of where we feel
evolves.
like in education too. I mean, in public education, we are preparing students for a world that we're not sure what it will look like. So there's a challenge there.
Yeah. Now, I haven't said anything up to this point in the show, but you are leaving the Hazelwood School District to take another position in another school district. Let me ask you, what is the, I guess, the most interesting thing you've had to encounter while you were here at the Hazelwood School District?
Well, I think the most interesting thing had to do with the fake baboon on the loose. We had a situation where the police in Florissant were notified that there was a dangerous baboon on the loose, and we had to lock down several schools, and it was a crisis situation, and people were very nervous, and then come to find out it was all a hoax. And so, at the time, I didn't think it was funny, but in hindsight, it's kind of silly, and I've done a couple of presentations at the state level on media relations and on that particular incident. And I will have people, I had someone at a national convention come up to me a couple of months ago and say, "Aren't you the baboon girl?" So I don't know that I want to be known for that, but it was just sort of one of those, you have to write it down and put it in the book. If you're going to write a book when you retire, that would be one of those things that goes in there in terms of just strange. And the principal, it was her first year, and to just have to deal with something like that, and helicopters circling, and it was just an interesting situation. So I will never forget that.
Yeah, the baboon girl, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what job you do, there's always something that is interesting or something you'll remember because of something. So that you have a very, very good one there. One question I always ask every guest: what high school did you go to? That's a St. Louis question.
You're right.
Yeah.
I went to Berkner High School in Richardson, Texas. I actually grew up in Texas, so I was a Berkner Ram. Didn't grow up around here, but a Berkner Ram, and still, thanks to Facebook and social media, stay in contact with the 902 graduates that we had in that class in 1987.
Well, that's a big class.
It's a very big class.
Class I graduated with, I think, was just like 101 or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's a big class. Where is Richardson, Texas?
It is about 30 miles north of Dallas.
Oh, okay.
So it's right there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I actually started my career in McKinney, which is another 30 miles north of Richardson in the McKinney School District, before coming to Hazelwood 8 years ago.
Oh, sounds good. What do you see Hazelwood doing in the next, say, 5 years? Just in general, what do you see them?
Well, I'm really proud of a couple things that we've been able to do in the past that I see helping us in the future. A couple of things were just the facility updates. Just, some of our schools really needed some updating bad, and thanks to taxpayer support, we've been able to do that. The other piece is the academic piece. We have seen some significant progress in our state assessment testing. More of a focus on all children, and that's exciting to me. So I think, I'm going to be watching Hazelwood from the East Coast, and I know I'm going to see some great things in terms of student achievement. We had some great growth this past school year, and we are doing some of the same things that we did last year. We will continue to do those so that we can see even more of that growth. And what I see for Hazelwood in the future is 140 points, which is the highest on the accreditation scale, accredited with distinction. We're just a few points right now from accredited with distinction. So we want to be at the top of the scale, and I've seen the positive growth, and I'm excited about that. So I feel like I'm leaving Hazelwood, a better place than when I got here, and that's really, in your career, all you can ask for.
That's true. Yeah, the one thing significant that I've seen is the 4 middle schools that they built now and integrated them into it, and the test scores this time. Hazelwood did real well on the test scores.
We are very
So
proud.
Should be very proud of it. Well, thank you, Diana. Good luck to you in the future, your future endeavors, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much.